on Prime Crime.
Okay, is she breathing?
Yes and no. I don't know what's wrong.
The questions surrounding a 3-year-old girl.
What happened here?
From the intense interrogations.
So I'm gonna be very matter of fact with you. You will be
to the incredible admissions on the witness stand.
Did you lie to the police?
Told them what they wanted to hear.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we do a deeper dive into the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. In 2018, a father drops off his daughter with a babysitter, but it doesn't end with him picking her up.
I babysit kids.
Yeah.
She just dropped her off and all of a sudden she just passed out. The little girl just sleep.
On March 8th, 2018, babysitter Lindsay Partin alerts Ohio police that the toddler she watches suddenly collapsed.
Is she breathing?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. I don't know what's wrong.
That 3-year-old girl was Hannah Wesche.
She felt pretty bad yesterday. And she
Okay.
was fine. And then all of a sudden she got out this morning and she walked in and she kind of passed out. She went limp.
After Hannah is rushed to the hospital, Parton, who is a mother herself, is brought in to speak with law enforcement.
So we walked in, she was in front of me, and she went to take off her jacket and just fell forward. And like I said, Hannah, get up, what are you doing? I thought maybe she tripped because I was putting my robe down. I'm in shock.
Right.
I'm in shock.
Detectives need to figure out what exactly happened here, including whether this was an accident.
You know that she's mischievous, Hannah, and that when she's at home with her dad, that he's very busy, and he doesn't get to pay attention.
Yeah. But I'll say, oh, did you fall? Did you jump off the couch again? Because she jumps off the couch a lot.
What happens in these cases is you'll have some type of an explanation, usually an innocent explanation, because we've all been around kids. We all know that kids fall down, they get bumps and they get bruises, and that's something that we've all shared in our common experience.
Yet it's when detectives reveal Hannah's condition to Parton that the interview changes.
Hannah's not doing good. Whatever happened to her happened this morning. And she has a severe brain wound.
Oh my God.
So what we need is the truth from you.
That is
Because
the truth.
we need to know how this happened, that way we can treat her.
I'm absolutely telling you the truth. Oh my
Because the
God.
way it's looking right now is that this happened at your house, because we need to find out, we need the
I
truth.
swear to God, I'm telling you the exact truth. We walked in the
From
house
what the
and
doctor's saying,
she fell.
she did not walk, she did not talk with this type of injury. None of that is
She did,
possible.
I promise you she did.
They're saying that's not possible.
I believe you're not being honest with us, and you need to come clean with it, because you're going to be a part of this.
10 days after collapsing, Hannah Wesche would be pronounced dead.
These child abuse cases come right down to the observable injuries. Babies, toddlers, they don't just die all of a sudden. They were able to observe things that are pathognomonic for child abuse. In other words, the only explanation for the existence of these observable injuries, retinal hemorrhages, brain swelling, is inflicted trauma.
Parton goes back to the beginning of the day, and she explains something interesting. She says Hannah's father, Jason, brought his daughter over, and she was wearing a hood.
Was he carrying her?
Mm-hmm. Carries her in, has her blanket over her, because it's cold, obviously, right now. You know, to kiss goodbye, whatever. He's not back to get you, she said, okay, bye.
Detectives question whether Jason may be at fault.
Is Jason capable of this? Does he have a temper? Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen him hit the kids?
No, I haven't. But I have not known him long enough to know that, and I've never even been in his house.
Have you ever seen bruises on her?
Yeah, she's bruised all the
Really, it could only be one of two people. It was either Parton or it was him. because they literally had their hands on this child and passed her off within moments of each other.
I just know she's been beat, and that's the cause of her death today.
I would never hurt her.
Jason's telling us that she gets hurt a lot at your house, that she always comes home with bruises.
That's completely untrue. She comes to my house with bruises.
So who do we believe?
I know.
Coming up, Parton sits down for a second interview, and it doesn't go the same as the first.
You've gone through every single one of these injuries, and you had no problems telling us about these.
Why lie about this one?
This child was beat. This is abuse. They just pulled the plug on this child. This child is dead.
Oh my God.
In 2018, detectives are questioning babysitter Lindsay Partin about the death of her neighbor, 3-year-old Hannah Wesche. Parton claims she was watching Hannah when she suddenly collapsed in front of her. Police, though, don't quite believe that story, considering the toddler's significant head trauma indicating physical abuse.
So I'm going to be very matter of fact with you. If you're sitting here telling the truth, that's great. But if you're sitting here and you're covering and you know things, listen to the words I'm going to tell you. You will be
Yes.
There's absolutely no positive way that this child was sitting down, playing, having conversations, that it absolutely could not have happened.
It is highly unlikely that she would have been able to have been injured the day before, because treating doctors specifically stated that the blows to her head would have resulted within seconds or minutes. She wouldn't have been able to be functioning.
I will look you in the eye. I've never hurt a kid in my life. Wouldn't even hurt my kids. I don't spank. I don't believe in spanking.
Have you ever...
Parton is called in for a second interview with law enforcement. It's here where she explains away Hannah's various injuries.
Yep. That's exactly where she fell, and on her chin. She didn't even, her hand didn't even hit. Like, she just...
So all these small little bruises and the ones on the chin.
Yes, I know about those right there.
That's all from that.
Yes. When she looked up at me and said, "Buddy, can I have donut and couch?" and went to take her jacket off, and she fell on that side.
This is bruised on both sides.
Yeah.
There's a piece of...
Children can certainly injure themselves in falls. We've all seen it. Every toddler falls down. They have a few bumps and bruises along the way, and yet they're not the same types of injuries. What's the difference is the severity and the number and the location.
So when people fall, you're going to have bruising on the sharp points. If you fall straight forward, you're not going to have bruising over here.
And that's where we're getting, that's why we wanted to come down and fill in some of these holes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, honestly, a lot of these aren't adding up to a fall in the gravel.
It's at this point when Parton tells the detectives that she left something out of her story about what happened prior to Hannah suddenly collapsing.
So I slipped on her blanket. I opened the door, and we both went down. I was holding her on the left side. When I slipped, it hit her side. I actually hit my head on the door coming down, but she smacked her face, her head really hard on the concrete step. And I fell, and she fell.
So why would you hide that?
I didn't want to be in trouble. I don't know.
At the very beginning, she basically said, I don't know what happened. She just came in and said, couch, donut, and then she collapsed. Well, no, the short fall that you're describing does not comport with the injuries. Well, now we have the biggest problem for Miss Parton, which is that she's already, by her own admission, caught being untruthful about what happened with the child.
But Parton is about to make an admission that will dramatically affect this whole case.
How does this happen?
I slapped her upside the head.
With what?
My hand. She took all the ketchup out and squirted it into the toilet. And I didn't think that hurt her. I really didn't.
So these were closed fists, like uppercuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only does she confess to having abused Hannah, but listen to what she says she did after Hannah's father dropped his daughter off for the last time.
She didn't want him to go to work. And he's like, I gotta go. So he rushed out, and I was like, Hannah, you can't do that. Daddy's gotta go to work.
You shook her.
Yeah. I shook her, and I remember picking her up and squeezing her, and we did fall.
How hard did you shake her?
She was in trouble.
Yeah. And you were angry.
Yeah.
Lindsay Partin is eventually charged with child endangerment, manslaughter, and murder for the death of Hannah Wesche. Yet it's what happens at Parton's trial that further complicates this story.
You didn't know that admitting to shaking Hannah would get you in trouble.
No, I didn't think it would.
When we return.
No, the bruises on the chest. Do you see the pattern here?
Yes.
Deny, deny, deny.
I did not touch her chest.
So look.
But I was mad that day.
Let's.
In 2019, Ohio babysitter Lindsay Partin stands accused of killing 3-year-old Hannah Wesche, a child who was in her care when she passed out and later died at a hospital. After Partin admits to investigators that she had physically disciplined Hannah, namely by hitting and shaking the toddler, she's charged with murder, involuntary manslaughter, and child endangerment. Partin's trial began in April of that year.
We don't know exactly what happened here. We only need to prove that Hannah was abused and or that the defendant violated her duty to that child.
Partin's defense argued that she didn't cause Hannah's death. In fact, they say the toddler collapsed within a minute of having been dropped off at Partin's house, and it's possible her injuries could have resulted from something or someone else.
So she can't say it was 20 minutes, she can't say it was an hour, she can't say days.
Because that's reasonable doubt. That says this child was injured somewhere else, not in the 30 seconds, not in the minute that Lindsay Partin had her.
The problem with autopsies and most forensic evidence is we don't know how the trauma was inflicted. So that's why that's always a battle of the experts.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether or not Hannah could have been walking or talking or behaving in a normal fashion after receiving the injuries that resulted in her death?
She could not. This is a tremendous brain injury. This is really serious.
If the state's pathologist had testified as to a significant or severe force, you would disagree with that?
Yes, I would disagree with that.
The autopsy shows, beyond any doubt, that this child died as a result of homicide. This child died as a result of inflicted trauma. The defense experts testified that these injuries, although they do exist, didn't necessarily manifest themselves in one certain time frame that you could pinpoint of who was responsible. So that window when the injuries might have been inflicted is open.
In this case, I do not believe it was immediate for the simple reason that the impact does not impress me about being the type of impact where I would have coup and contre coup and fractures and big subdural and all that. It didn't happen.
If Partin didn't inflict these injuries, then who did? The defense pointed the finger at Hannah's father, Jason Wesche.
You immediately shoved that thing into reverse and got the heck out of the driveway?
Yeah, when I'm leaving for work, yes ma'am, I started
Is that
my
when
car.
Hannah fell into the back seat and hit her head?
Hannah never fell in the back seat.
Because if she fell in the back seat, climbing over the front seat and hit her head, and it killed her, then you'd be responsible. Isn't that true?
I assume I would, yes ma'am.
I think the defense had to go with the most easily blamable person, and a lot of times when there is violence, it is within spouses or within a parent. And we also know that he had observed some strange behaviors from her, in addition to some of the things that he said that were not true in terms of going out to get milk. There were several details that wound up not being accurate.
Today is the first time you've told Detective Turner in this room that you didn't go get milk the night before, but instead you went to Fairfield?
No ma'am.
When did you previously tell him that?
When I found out, Monday morning when we were in court.
I indicated that your whereabouts for the night of the 7th of March were very important and suspicious. Doesn't have anything to do with that?
No ma'am.
You lied to the police about milk and Walmart, correct?
I was confused, yes ma'am.
I found Jason to be relatively credible. He did have some inconsistencies with minor facts. They can be explained by the trauma he was going through missing his child. Overall, he made a good witness.
Up next, the jury would get to hear from another witness, maybe the most important one of all, Lindsay Partin herself.
Ms. Parton, did you
There's an
think
answer to
that you could slap her across the face?
I have known other moms to do that.
That's not
so
what I'm
I
asking.
didn't think that it was an issue as a type of discipline.
Listen. Knowing that we know that, what happened here?
I just slapped her upside the head and went like that.
Close.
Yeah, like that.
In 2019, Lindsay Partin is facing charges of murder, involuntary manslaughter, and child endangerment out in Ohio. The prosecution claimed that Partin killed 3-year-old Hannah Wesche by physically abusing her during a babysitting session. Partin had even previously admitted to striking and shaking the toddler. The defense, though, argued that Hannah died due to injuries she sustained before being dropped off at Partin's home that day, even throwing suspicions on Hannah's father, Jason. In the end, it was Partin herself who tried to convince the jury of her innocence when she took the stand.
Lindsay, did you cause harm to Hannah Wesche on March 8th?
I did not.
Why did you tell the police that you did?
Because I wanted to protect everybody.
Miss Partin took the witness stand, and she had a very tough road to hoe because she had to explain to jurors why she herself shouldn't be believed. She, by her own admission, was untruthful during the interrogation. If she can lie to the police, the prosecution is going to say, well, then she can certainly lie to the jurors.
Why didn't you throw Jason to the wolves, to the detectives on March 8th?
Because I care about him. He was my friend. Wanted to protect everybody. I didn't want anybody to be in trouble.
Why would you want to protect someone who did this to a child?
I always think the best of people.
When she told jurors that she was protecting people, she's doing that at the expense of the child because she's not protecting the child. If she wanted to protect the child, she would have told the truth about who actually did this as soon as it happened.
Partin claimed that police coerced her confession.
We know what this is consistent with.
Yeah.
Look at me. We do this for a living.
No, I know.
Okay?
I know.
This is not the first 3-year-old that we're staring at pictures about, okay? It's not a fault. And you know what caused this.
They didn't care what I had to say. I felt pressured. I felt forced. I wanted to protect everybody. I felt bullied.
Did you lie to the police?
I told them what they wanted to hear.
I did not think that the interview was overly suggestive. We see many different types of police interviews, and a lot of them have very obvious elements of duress. This was just not one of those examples, specifically because she actually testified to details that were not given to her by police.
When it was time for the prosecution to cross-examine Partin, they didn't hold back.
You didn't Google how to make a bruise look better, how to make a bruise feel better. You Googled how to get rid of a bruise. Is that right?
Yes.
You indicated that it was your belief you could physically discipline Hannah.
Yes.
You could squeeze her middle.
Yes.
Was it your belief that you could hit her on the face with an open hand?
Yes.
And was it your belief that you could hit her on the chin with a closed fist?
Yes.
And was it your belief that you could shake her?
Yes.
It's always difficult for a defendant to decide whether or not to testify at trial, particularly when there are statements that are being used against them. So the decision to testify was risky, and in this instance, it did not pay off. She universally came off very poorly on the stand, appeared to be condescending. I think here it was a mistake to testify.
As to count 4 of the indictment, involuntary manslaughter, we, the duly impaneled jury, do find the defendant, Lindsay Partin, guilty, accompanied by all 12 signatures. As to count 5 of the indictment, endangering children, we, the duly impaneled jury, do find the defendant, Lindsay Partin, guilty. As to count 6 of the indictment, murder, we, the duly impaneled jury, do find the defendant, Lindsay Partin, guilty. All 12 signatures.
The jurors gave Miss Partin an opportunity to be heard, and they just didn't believe her. The testimony that she gave ultimately was totally inconsistent with the physical, observable injuries on the child, and the jury's verdict reflects that.
I do sentence the defendant, Lindsay Partin, to a lifetime imprisonment with parole eligibility after 15 years.
It's hard to predict whether Ms. Parton's going to make parole. Parole boards don't often like to parole people who have committed very violent offenses like this, but if she behaves, tries to better herself, and takes responsibility, she may be able to convince the parole board that she is rehabilitated.
It's something that's in my mind every single day. Time doesn't make anything easier. It makes it rougher. Try to go day by day. I was relieved that that part was over and she was convicted. I'm glad she went to prison, obviously. We hope that she does not make parole in 2037. I didn't see her testimony in court. I was not allowed in the courtroom at that time. It's bewildering. I don't understand how anybody could think that that's okay to do to a child.
It is so hard to think about Hannah Wesche and what she went through. And it's even more scary that Lindsay Partin almost got away with it. Having said that, it seems that Miss Parton is going to remain locked up until her parole hearing, because at the time of this taping, the 12th District Court of Appeals upheld her convictions, and the Ohio Supreme Court declined to hear her case. That's all we have for you here on Prime Crime. Leave us your comments on Instagram and Twitter with the hashtag PrimeCrime. As always, thank you for joining us. And until next time, be safe. On Prime Crime, the video that changed the country.
The first time I saw the cell phone video, I was at a loss for words.
A controversial defense.
If he would have stopped, this would have happened.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said.
And the trial watched by all.
I took probably 40 pages of notes as he testified, and I knew where he had lied.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we do a deeper dive into the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. This is a story that captivated the entire nation, and it all started with a cell phone video. The video you're watching is from February 23rd, 2020. It shows a young man running in Satilla Shores, a neighborhood near Brunswick, Georgia.
The first time I saw the cell phone video, I was at a loss for words.
That man was 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. As you'll see, Arbery is running in the direction of Gregory McMichael and his son Travis McMichael. The video is from the cell phone of their neighbor William Roddy Bryan. What happens next will change the lives of all four men. Within seconds, Ahmaud Arbery is shot and killed.
I was searching for what else could there be? Why would someone do this?
When police arrive on the scene, they try to figure out what happened by interviewing all three men.
I was in my driveway. I look up, this guy comes hauling ass down the street. I'm talking about in a dead run. He's not jogging. The guy, on numerous occasions, the guy has broken into a house over here. Nobody could ever catch him. They've had him on video.
According to the McMichaels, they believed Arbery was a criminal, a man they say had routinely trespassed on the property of their neighbor Larry English. In fact, surveillance footage from English's home shows Arbery previously entering onto the premises.
When you look at Larry English's video and you see Ahmaud Arbery walking in and out of this property, the question becomes, well, what are you looking at? What are you looking for? Why are you walking around in this manner and so consistently when you've never had permission to do so?
We've had break-ins
Okay.
and my gun stolen.
Okay.
Dad was outside, saw him running by, and the neighbors pointing and everything. So
Saw who running by?
Him.
Add on top of the suspicious walking around of Ahmaud Arbery, you have a gun missing from Travis McMichael's truck across the street. You have an item being stolen from Larry English's boat. So it starts to raise more questions than answers.
Gregory McMichael explains that even though they didn't know Arbery, they had a recent encounter with him.
Travis is leaving the neighborhood the other night. As he's leaving the neighborhood, he looks over to the left and sees this guy walking across a neighbor's yard. You know, and he says the guy's acting shady. At some point, the lights hit him. The guy hauls ass into the house. Travis.
An episode to which police responded.
We don't see him back there unless he jumped the fence.
He's armed, by the way.
Okay.
I think Travis and his dad certainly demonstrated that their goal in the neighborhood was to try to protect themselves and their neighbors from crime. And there were other experiences where they had done as they did with Mr. Arbery, where they had gone out, where they had taken firearms with them, where they had sought to understand why the person was there or what they were doing in the neighborhood or whether they were connected to criminal activity, and they called the police.
How did this all end, though, with Ahmaud Arbery dead?
He comes hauling ass down the street. I run in the house. I said, Travis, come on, let's go. So Travis runs and gets his shotgun because the other night, the guy stuck his hand in his pants. So we take off. We see him come around the corner. He's going down here. We pull up beside him. Say, hey, stop, we want to talk to you. And he just keeps on running. Travis backs up and says, hey, stop, we want to talk to you. So the guy, I mean, he's looking dead at us, you know? I mean, he's like, from me to you. And he turns and he runs. Travis gets out with the damn shotgun and runs up there. The guy turns and comes at him. And they start wrestling, and Travis shoots him right in the damn chest. The guy was trying to take the shotgun away from him.
This father said to his son, let's go, grab your gun, he's back, let's go get him.
To keep an eye on the number one suspect, he responded with nothing. No explanation, anything, until the point that he decided that his way out of this detention was to attack Travis.
If he would have stopped, this would have happened. That's fine. Like I said, just...
Is this just a simple case of citizens stopping a suspected criminal? As you'll see, not at all.
The black guy was tired of running. He seen me around the corner right there, and he was like, man, I'm done.
That's my son that shot him. I was in the back of the truck. I need to get this blood off my hands. All right.
Back on February 23, 2020, father and son Gregory and Travis McMichael are speaking with Georgia police. They explain they followed an African-American man who was running in their Satilla Shores neighborhood, believing he was a suspected criminal in the area. In fact, that man, later identified as Ahmaud Arbery, had been seen on surveillance footage possibly trespassing onto a property on previous occasions, and the McMichaels had even encountered him earlier that same month.
We've had a string of burglaries. I was leaving the neighborhood, and I just caught a guy running into a house being built. I don't know if he's armed or not.
The McMichaels claim that what started with them following and merely asking questions to Arbery ended with him running away and then attacking Travis, with the younger McMichael opening fire in self-defense.
Last thing I've ever done what to do in my life.
However, there's someone we haven't heard from yet, William Roddy Bryan, the McMichaels' neighbor who filmed this shooting on his cell phone.
I'm on the porch and I see him running by, so I hollered at them. I said, y'all got him? And he just kept running. He was full.
Even though William Bryan didn't have direct communication with the McMichaels, they're going to jump in to help just because, at least I think for Bryan, he perceives that to be the neighborly thing to do.
Listen carefully, though, to Bryan's description of events.
I pulled out of my driveway, was going to try to block him. He was going all around it, and I made a few moves at him, throwing through the damn windshield trying to chase this joker. You know, should we have been chasing him? I don't know. But...
It soon becomes clear that these men were actively chasing and blocking Arbery with their cars. In fact, Gregory McMichael would tell a detective, quote, he was trapped like a rat. Yet there's a serious problem with what these three men believed about Arbery. The evidence would show that not only was Arbery not armed with a weapon, but he wasn't committing a burglary, robbery, or any violent crime that day, and there was no proof he had ever stolen anything from anyone in that neighborhood. It seems that on the day in question, Arbery may just have been jogging.
To have gone in the house and grabbed guns, having assumed the absolute worst in their driveway decision, that's where all of this went wrong.
You may think that these men were immediately apprehended for what they did, but rather, they were all free to go. The McMichaels weren't arrested until over 2 months after the shooting.
You have to look at the interaction between Gregory McMichael and the officers. They know who Gregory McMichael is. And you can almost see him directing the police officers as he's giving his narrative as to what occurred. And you can see a sense of respect that these officers give to Gregory McMichael in taking that narrative.
Hey, Greg.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. You're doing this. I do know Greg. How you doing?
Y'all don't put him in cuffs, are you?
No. Why would you be in cuffs?
Well, I can't.
Gregory McMichael was previously a police officer himself. He was also an investigator in the office of former District Attorney Jackie Johnson. In fact, this is the voicemail he left her after the shooting.
My friend and I have been involved in the shooting, and I need some advice right away.
Combine that with the problems that former DA Jackie Johnson is now facing, and that she is being prosecuted for showing favor towards the McMichaels, specifically Gregory McMichael. That kind of explains why there were no arrests off the bat.
I lost Ahmaud, my family and I, and then we had to go out and actually fight to get some attention, to get arrest.
This arrest only occurred by the grace and strength of what I believe to be Wanda Cooper Jones, who stayed on this story until it was made public. And it was the releasing of that video that we all got to see what happened. And the narrative of Gregory McMichael and Travis McMichael and anyone else kind of fell apart.
In the end, not only were Gregory and Travis McMichael arrested, but 3 weeks later, so too was William Bryan.
Mr. Bryan is the one who redirected Ahmaud not out of the subdivision, but up Holmes Drive, so that he encountered the McMichaels and then became trapped and pinned between the two pickup trucks.
All three men would be charged with multiple felonies, including murder for Ahmaud Arbery's death. While many people across the country were outraged over the killing of Arbery, the legal question of whether these men actually committed a crime wasn't so easy to answer. When we return.
To be honest with you, if I could have got a shot at the guy, I shot him myself.
In May 2020, father and son Gregory and Travis McMichael, as well as their neighbor William Roddy Bryan, are arrested in connection with the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. While the video of this encounter captured on Bryan's cell phone became a viral sensation across the country, the legal question became, was this murder? According to the government, these men unlawfully hunted down Arbery based on an assumption he was a criminal, although they had no actual knowledge Arbery had done anything illegal that day. Yet the McMichaels had previously seen videos of Arbery possibly trespassing onto the property of their neighbor Larry English. Also, the McMichaels had recently encountered Arbery entering onto that property.
I've seen these videos, so I know what the guy looks like. This guy comes hauling ass down the street. Like I said, I mean, like something's after him. Travis grabs his shotgun, because we don't know if this guy's armed, because the other night, the guy stuck his hand down his pants, which led Travis to think he was armed.
The McMichaels and Bryan's defense teams argued that although these men may have been mistaken about Arbery's actions, they did nothing wrong and were protected under Georgia's then citizens arrest law, which has since been repealed.
If an individual commits a crime within your presence or within your immediate knowledge, you are allowed to detain them. In the law's application of this case, the McMichaels and Bryan are saying that a felony occurred within their presence, that they had seen Ahmaud Arbery flee from Larry English's home, and that this law allowed them to chase after and effectuate a citizen's arrest.
Travis hauls ass up there, tries to cut him off, gets in front of him. The guy turns and runs.
Call the police. Trust that they're going to show up and do the right thing. And we know that in this case, had Officer Rash encountered Ahmaud Arbery, he was just going to put him on the phone with Larry English and let Larry English decide whether to issue a trespass warning. And that's what his standard operating procedure was going to be, which is, of course, much different than what these defendants chose to do.
Apart from the citizens arrest law, the McMichaels claim they acted in self-defense.
I said, stop, God damn it, you know? And then Travis jumps out with the shotgun, and he runs up here, and the guy more or less attacks him. He runs towards him, and they get a fight over the damn shotgun, and bam!
The video showed self-defense by Travis because you could very clearly see Ahmaud Arbery not turning to run away, but turning that dramatic left turn across the front of the truck and traveling all the way across the front of the truck to meet Travis at the other side. This was an attack, that Ahmaud Arbery was the primary aggressor at that moment, and that Travis had no choice.
Yeah,
he struck me a few times.
Okay, well,
but I'm
let him.
fine.
Where were you struck?
Face.
Okay.
The fundamental aspect of self-defense is you cannot be the provocateur. You cannot be the person who is the initial aggressor. While the McMichaels want to ignore that 5-minute chase of Ahmaud Arbery, the cutting off, the veering off, the bumping into a car, the screaming out the window, that's initial aggression.
There's something else to consider about the video of the shooting.
Travis McMichael had lifted up that 12-gauge pump-action shotgun and directed it at Ahmaud Arbery when he was actually feet away from him. And so that shows a lack of immediacy, a lack of danger to his life, and that goes directly against any claim of self-defense.
William Roddy Bryan also claimed he was protecting himself from Arbery.
He was trying to get in my truck. He tried to get in my door.
But was Arbery just protecting himself from Bryan, who allegedly tried to hit Arbery with his car? Coming up, the groundbreaking trial for these 3 defendants and the testimony you can't miss.
And all he had done so far is run away from you, right?
And I let him run away, yes.
I pulled his arm out, and then I realized he didn't have anything in his hand, and saw that this ain't gonna last long.
On November 5th, 2021, Brunswick, Georgia took center stage as the trial began for Travis McMichael, his father Gregory McMichael, and their neighbor William Roddy Bryan. All 3 men were charged with the murder of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. The prosecution alleged that the defendants assumed Arbery was a criminal and then proceeded to unlawfully chase him with their cars, and while blocking his exit, Travis McMichael gunned him down, a shooting captured on Bryan's cell phone video.
They shot and killed him, not because he was a threat to them, but because he wouldn't stop and talk to them.
The defendants argued they had reasonable suspicion to pursue Arbery under Georgia's then citizen's arrest law, given that Arbery had been seen frequently entering onto a neighbor's property without permission.
Ahmaud Arbery was not an innocent victim. He was a recurring nighttime intruder.
The McMichaels also argued that Travis acted in self-defense when Arbery attacked him and allegedly tried to get his gun away from him.
He is afraid that he will beat him with his fist or whatever weapon he might have, and so he raises the gun.
As for William Bryan, who was in a separate car from the McMichaels, he tried to distance his actions from those of his co-defendants.
Mr. Bryan cannot be a party to a crime by accident. Roddy Bryan didn't shoot Mr. Arbery. Roddy Bryan certainly was not aware of any intention on the part of Travis McMichael to shoot Mr. Arbery.
Covering this case in Georgia was interesting. Seeing how people at restaurants or people in cabs thought about this case and how it affected this community. All eyes in Brunswick, in Georgia, and in the country were focused on this case.
No day may have caused more of a stir than when Travis McMichael took the stand.
And I said, hey, the police are on the way. As soon as I said the police, he turned and ran straight back down. I would have lost that grip on that shotgun, that I would have been shot, or I'd have been in serious trouble at that point. And he was not relenting. So I shot again to stop him.
I took probably 40 pages of notes as he testified, and I knew where he had lied, I knew where he had embellished, I knew where he had minimized. So it's fair to say you had incomplete information about who was committing the crimes in Satilla Shores?
Yes.
So you're telling this jury that a man who has spent 5 minutes running away from you, you're now thinking is somehow going to want to continue to engage with you, someone with a shotgun, and your father, a man who's just said, stop or I'll blow your head off, by trying to get in their truck?
That's what it shows, yes ma'am.
You could have made sure that you and your dad called the police
from your house at 230 Satilla Drive before you ever got in that pickup truck, correct?
I could have.
You could have just continued to drive behind Mr. Arbery and not even speak to him or confront him at all. Isn't that true?
I could have, yes.
After all the evidence and arguments were presented and deliberating over 11 hours, the jury returned their verdicts.
Malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. Felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty.
Thank God. We were just so relieved that justice finally came for the family. It was a long, hard fight.
Citizens arrest law in Georgia did not allow the McMichaels and Bryan to do what they did.
I look at the video of this incident, and it's the frame of Travis McMichael lifting the shotgun to fire at Ahmaud Arbery and thinking about a young man that had been running at that point for almost 5 minutes, and it is truly disturbing.
Judge Walmsley sentenced both McMichaels and Bryan to life in prison, but only Bryan with the possibility of parole.
The actions of Bryan showed almost regret or pause or second thought as to whether or not this was right. And I think that made it very easy for Judge Walmsley to say, you know what? Consec, life sentences, and we'll give a little different for William Roddy Bryan.
I told you I love you, and someday, somehow, I will get you justice. Son, I love you as much today as I did today that you were born.
He is and was a human being, a son, a brother, somebody who had potential in their life to do almost anything. He was an avid runner, and they took his life at the age of 25. His lifeblood just covering that street in the Satilla Shores neighborhood, and that they had no right to do it.
At the time of this taping, the McMichaels and Bryan face a second trial, this one in federal court on hate crimes charges, the allegation being that they were racially motivated in their attack on Arbery. You know, it's really something to think about where we are in this case, and especially how it all started, which makes you wonder, if there wasn't a video of the shooting, do you think these men would have been found guilty? Would they have even been arrested? That's a question for everyone to consider. That's all we have for you here on Prime Crime. Leave us your comments on Instagram and Twitter with the hashtag PrimeCrime. As always, thank you for joining us, and until next time, be safe.